man of the hour is here. Of course, it's his segment. And today he is looking at SAPS members and whether or not they're using, lethal force excessively, or are they protecting themselves against hardened violent criminals who would not think twice but shoot at them. So, of course, this is what we're looking at now when it comes to explain and verify. And Samgel, what are the stats telling us?
Indeed, Bongiwe, South Africa is ranked as the 5th most dangerous country globally and has the highest crime rate in Africa with a crime index of 75.5%. In recent months, South Africa's police services' deadly confrontation with alleged criminals has drawn much praise and criticism, particularly in a province like KwaZulu-Natal. The stubbornly high levels of crime, in particular violent crime, is a major concern for the country. The statistics tell us a reality that South Africa's crime index is amongst the highest in the world. So, are our police trigger happy? Let's listen to what General of the Police, National Commissioner General Fani Masamula had to say, whether the police are trigger happy or not. You'd remember the days of Begitele, shoot to kill. You'd remember the days of the Cato Mena hit squad in KwaZulu-Natal, then led by Johan Boysens, now with Fidelity. But let's listen.
The reports that I get from the provincial commissioner is that police are acting within the ampid of the law. You would recall it's not only in KZN. We have seen in Makado where police and suspects they faced each other off for 90 minutes. And one of our members lost a leg there. And further in Gauteng, in Oliver Noordbosch, in Joaferinage, in Rosettenville, recently in the Eastern Cape, where 5 suspects were fatally wounded when they challenged police when they were found at a safe house after a CIT robbery. So it's not only in KZN, but the fact of the matter, if criminals pull out guns to police, surely, definitely, they will have to face what will come out of their way. If criminals, they get arrested, by all means, there's no problem. And in all these cases, there's a lot of number of firearms that are recovered from those suspects, be it rifles, pistols, and so on. The rifles that were found with the 5 CIT robbers in the Eastern Cape, around Kredok, Kiskamahu, 5 rifles were found, high caliber rifles. The owner of the house was not shot because he didn't give any resistance. So it's not to say police just shoot willy-nilly. If you point a gun on them, of course, they must defend themselves.
Let's look at what the law has to say, particularly Bongiwe, around when should the police use this particular force. The Minister of Police says when the police go to a crime scene and there is criminals, they don't go there to ask for love. They don't go there to ask for a cup of coffee and muffins. They go there to combat crime. But let's look at what the Criminal Procedure Act number 51 of 1977, section 49, subsection 2. Deadly force can be used on reasonable grounds only if the suspect possesses a threat of serious violence. For instance, like you've seen in areas such as Inanda, where those suspects go out in a gunfight with the police, like you've seen in areas such as Gwamamdegazi in the west of Durban. Also, committed or threatened infliction of serious bodily harm. Committed or threatened infliction of serious bodily harm. That is when the police can use serious force. No other reasonable means of effecting the arrest. If there is no other reasonable means of effecting arrest, like you saw in Pietermaritzburg within that particular house when the then Minister of Police was still in charge, Begitele, where those particular young lads were shot by the police. Also, like you saw in Rosettenville, where you had that chopper where they intercepted that CIT heist within the province of Gauteng. That is only when the police can use deadly force against suspects, shooting at them and threatening their lives, Bongiwe.
And of course, Samgele, this speaks to some of the concerns that community members would raise, others welcoming these developments by the SAPS, but others saying it's too heavy-handed.
It's interesting, Bongiwe, because the former Minister of Police, General Begicele, said in November last year, while speaking at a funeral of a young police constable who was killed while responding to a crime scene, he was very vociferous in saying that the police, instead, let's look at that particular stat of what Begicele had to say. On the 25th of November 2023 at a funeral, he said, Bongiwe, let me quote him, "We are appalled that about 10 police officers have been killed every single month since April 2023, all at the hands of criminals. This is why I will forever call on the police to fight fire with fire, especially when their lives are threatened. No officer must ever die with a weapon in their hands." These are the words of Minister Begicele in 25th of November 2023. The incumbent Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu, also repeated the same words when he was speaking at the ANC Lekgotla, saying that police officers have a duty to protect South Africans, but first and foremost, they must protect themselves in order to protect the ordinary citizenry of this particular country. So if someone pulls out a gun, shoots at you, you must be ready to respond with fire, because ultimately the criminals are loading those R1s, are loading those AK-47s in order to kill these particular police officers. Let's just look at the stats. 35 police officers killed between July and September 2023, Bongiwe. That is the stats. 35 police officers killed between July and September 2023. Police officers were killed, 78 police officers were killed in between April and November 2023. Those are the stats. 78 police officers killed between April and November 2023. 10 officers killed monthly, April and November 2023. Fight fire with fire when lives are threatened. Words of Begicele predecessor, successor has the same particular words. No officer must ever die with their weapon in their hands. So, Bongiwe, these are in essence the words of the ministers of this particular country, dating from Begicele to Senzo Mchunu. It is clear that South Africa is grappling with the complexities of upholding human rights and accountability in law enforcement. The police say they are under attack by criminals armed with high-caliber weapons. But does the law say that proportional use of force by the police? We are now connecting with Professor Khulufelo Rakubu from the Department of Safety and Security Management at the Tshwane University of Technology to speak on this particular matter. I'm not yet sure if we've got the professor on the line. Professor, good evening to you. Just the essence of the police using force. How do we determine the proportionality of the use of force by the police versus the threat faced by the police at a given time?
Good evening. At the moment, it's undeterminable. Why am I saying so? Because the very same criminal procedure is very silent on that proportionality. It allows for reasonable force, but let's look at the circumstances in which these police officers find themselves in. In that regard, Criminal Procedure Act does not assist. That is why there has been multiple calls around the review to give police officers more powers to do their job. At the moment, it's very silent. Hence, we are having this debate. Hence, communities are divided around proportionality or reasonable force. What is reasonable force? Under which circumstances? Because now, police officers are responding as per the threat to their lives. Communities are still questioning, why did you kill them? But they are saying they utilize reasonable force because of the loopholes within the Criminal Procedure Act. That is why we are questioning. There are questions around what is proportionality. You could not. Why did you shoot all of them? So that is why, like I said, there has been calls to say review it. It must be particular. A gun cannot be responded using a broom. An R5 or R1 or AK-47 or high caliber rifle requires what kind of a response so that they know their powers. This has impacted on police response to crime. I'm sure there are certain police officers that are even fearful of finding themselves in situations where they have to shoot. Because what? At the end of the day, every man for himself. This is very stressful for a police officer to be undergoing investigations and so forth to determine whether you utilized reasonable force. Yet in that particular time, you saw it as reasonable, but yet you are going to be questioned. So that might impact on your decision to even act accordingly. And this has given suspects or offenders more powers to prepare, because for them to even go for police officers, obviously that they were motivated. To be a motivated offender, you had all time to plan, have the necessary resources, and you just don't carry an AK-47 to play. You go there with intention to shoot because you have identified a suitable target in being a victim, and police officers identified as suitable target. Again, you decide to go and attack due to absence of a capable guardian. Criminal Procedure Act should be acting as a capable guardian, where now when police officers respond as per the threat, we don't even question. Where now even an offender will go into that space knowing, for as long as I go with an AK-47 will be waiting for me.
Professor,
but they go in with something else.
Professor, but is the use of lethal force a detriment to the arrest of these particular criminals, particularly using a province like KwaZulu-Natal and using the provincial commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, who's very vociferous when it comes to the use of force within that particular province? You just look today, criminals did not survive in the attempted catch and transist heist in the north of that particular province of KwaZulu-Natal. Is his use of deadly force a detriment to the arrest of these criminals?
Were they supposed to survive? That's my question. Were they supposed to survive? Because deadly force may be used when the arrester, in this case being Mkhwanazi's men, right, reasonably believes the suspect offers a serious threat of danger to him as an officer or others at any time. So now let's look at the ammunition found with those men. Obviously, he posed a serious threat to what? An officer that intended to arrest and others around him, because remember, even bystanders fall, they are caught in between here. So utilization of deadly force, that is what that deadly force, that is when you have done thorough suspect analysis, because in most cases this suspect have long list of crimes that they have committed, and during an analysis they are able to identify what they normally utilize to commit crime. So we said utilize intelligence when you go arrest them, because when they shoot you, we're saying what? You are poorly trained. So their suspect analysis tells them that they are in possession of this kind of ammunition, and this is how you should prepare. Then they go in, police officers respond accordingly. We are questioning. I still take you back to loopholes around criminal procedure, because criminal procedure should be directing us clear that when you do A, an answer is B. Not now, because now it opens for multiple interpretation as much as we are doing right now. We are interpreting reasonable force, in a deadly force or lethal force.
Professor, in 20 seconds, are we back to the days of the Cato Manor hit squad, then led by Johan Boysens in KwaZulu-Natal, with these men in blue, led by Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi in the province of KwaZulu-Natal?
The crime landscape is forcing us to revert back to that era where an offender will know what awaits them. They are forced by circumstances, because criminals are ruling the country at the moment.
Well, Bongiwe, that is the professor from the Tshwane University of Technology, basically saying that we must use that particular hard force on these particular criminals that are running rampant in the country. CIT heist, left, right, and center. South Africa is now being perceived as a high spot of human trafficking as well. And that just brings the question, what should the police do when they are faced with the full might of these particular criminals? You just saw in Khayelitsha, 4 AK-47s were found, 1 R5 high caliber, 1 R1 high caliber weapon was found, last manufactured in the apartheid era. This democratic dispensation does not use an R1, but it was found in Khayelitsha. Bongiwe.
I'm interested to find out what the ampid says about all of this.
Well, Bongiwe, the ampid says there were 393 death crime scenes as a result of police action. The majority of the deaths occurred when the suspects were committing a crime or being arrested in these particular provinces of the country. Let's just look at the statistics province by province. Due to police action 2022-2023 financial year, death due to police action in Eastern Cape, there was 37. Free State, 16. Gauteng, which is also a hub of a criminality within the country, 108. KwaZulu-Natal, leading particularly when it comes to various crime stats within the country, 115 criminals were particularly killed due to that gunfire with the police. In Limpopo, it was 29. Mpumalanga, it was 32. Northwest, it was 25. Northern Cape, it was 2. And Western Cape, it was 29. In total, 393 people lost their lives in the financial year of 2022-2023. Bongiwe, let's look at the ampid crime referrals to the NPA between 2022 and 2023. 2,093 criminal cases referred to the NPA. 1,533 assault cases, including 158 death cases due to police action, 55 torture, 8 deaths in police custody. These, Bongiwe, are the stats that are there that have been referred to and ampid has in their particular documents, Bongiwe.
And it's quite interesting, Samkela, especially because a lot of people would then be saying, does, the SAPS have enough members?
Well, the South African population and police service is constantly understaffed, with national police to population ratio approximately standing at 1 officer for every 400 residents. But in many disadvantaged areas with high levels of crime and violence, this ratio is approximately 1 officer for as many as 700 or even 800 residents. Bongiwe, for instance, let me use an area where I come from, in the rural areas of Pamshela. You've got a police station in Ntsuze, arguably the worst police station within the country. Begicele, when he was still minister, had many reports about that particular police station in Ntsuze. It is corrugated sheet ironing that are the constructs of that particular police station. They don't sometimes even have computers within that particular station. Then you go to Harburg, which is the nearest other police station, which is in an affluent area, largely a farming town as well, where you've got many farmers within that particular community. Highly upgraded police station. But if you go to Ndwedwe or Zwatini, that particular police station needs much to be desired, and that is where the base and the mass of the South African population is at. And that just tells you of the levels of police security that South Africans have at them. Looking at your own community, you can see the levels of whether you are truly protected by the men in blue or you are truly disadvantaged due to the SAPS being understaffed. And knowing very well that the Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu, says they are not going to drink coffee and have muffins with the police. They must respond fire with fire.